A work session. This is sponsored by Commissioner Mullally and Commissioner Giles. So at this moment, we'll open the floor for public comments. If anyone would like to address the Board of Commissioners, we'll open up the floor and ask you to come forward to the podium. Give your name and address for the record. It's your one and only opportunity. All right, seeing none, we'll close public hearing and we will move on. Well, the next item on the agenda is adjournment. So this is a really efficient agenda. I got work session, citizen comments, and adjournment. I like this. Folks, it's been fun. I guess without objection, we'll just turn the floor over to our staff here that's sitting at the table because they look like they have something to tell us.
Shane Chaminor, City of Mount Juliet Engineering. Thank you all for being here tonight on short notice. We wanted to present a presentation detailing capacity concerns on the north side of town, primarily centered around Bender's Ferry Road. With some subdivision regulation changes, the capacity on that side of town has been granted to several developments, all of which that can be served that are in construction right now. We're only talking about new developments coming forward during the entitlement process, which will have an issue serving, the city will. Currently today, we about a quarter of the flow in the city on an average daily basis is on the north side of town. And we, Director Forkham and myself, we came up with an idea of how we can, I want to use my words carefully, optimize capacity on that side of town. So that's why we brought Steve Jones with Water Management Services, who's been consulting with the city for over 40 years, that basically have been here since the beginning of a sewer system in Mount Juliet. He's got a presentation for you all. River, if you want to cue it up, and we'll take any questions after that presentation he gives. So with no further ado, Steve Jones with Water Management System Services. Sorry.
I assume I'm supposed to speak into this microphone. Oh, this will work. Okay, that'll be a lot easier because I'm gonna look over here, Mayor. Thank you. So as Shane said, he and Tim and I have met 2 or 3 times on this. We do work with staff to manage capacity, with the goal being not to overload sewers, obviously, in an area, and then to alert you all when you're at or nearing capacity that's going to affect your ability to allow development within the urban growth boundary. So specifically, as Shane said, we're going to talk about Bender's Ferry, but first off, we're going to talk about the overall collection system to the north. So just to kind of give you an idea of what collects in to the north. So the collection point for your sewer to the north is the Cedar Creek or Highway 70 pump station. So that is the little building that sits across the creek from West Wilson Utility District. So all of the flow, for the most part, so I guess I shouldn't say all the flow, but for the most part, the flow comes to that location. And that picks up everything from the Mount Juliet Library going north, from Jackson Hills coming back to the west, from Highway 70 up at Green Hill High School coming back down, and then those flows there from Bender's Ferry come in that direction down Highway 70. So as you can kind of visualize that, I'll jump to here. So got a pointer here. So what's not included in that? So here's your urban growth boundary. As I said, it gets most of it because what's along Nonneville here goes into a separate pump station that pumps in over to South Green Hill Road and then discharges into the interceptor sewer. So this is excluded, but the remainder of everything here to the north, and then this huge portion of the urban growth boundary that's undeveloped, drains back to this location here. And that pump station right now is at about 70% capacity. So in order to open up capacity in the northern part of your system, and especially along Bender's Ferry, concept has been come up with to split this flow off. So what you have right now that runs from Bender's Ferry down to that location along Highway 70 is a 15-inch gravity sewer. And this area has the highest rate over the past 12 months for people requesting sewer availability. So this is the area of the city that people want to develop these homes. And at this point, we've allocated all of the capacity that 15-inch gravity sewer has. So without additional capacity, somebody either has to build capacity or developments will have to be denied based on the limited sewer capacity that's in that area. So in order to allow that without having to, without a developer having to build, and we'll get into what this is, but we're talking about 16,000 feet of force main in order to accommodate additional flow, without them having to build all that downstream infrastructure, then what we're looking at is the city of Mount Juliet paying and going ahead and moving forward with a project and then reclaiming that money from developers as those developers come into the area. As I said, we'll go through that here in just a little bit, but this is just your development map. So you can see this is Bender's Ferry. You can see approved developments and developments that are under construction all within this area. And so we're saying that if we intercept part of this flow, then we can reclaim capacity at the existing Cedar Creek pump station, which opens up additional capacity to the west and then gives you capacity over here on the east side of Highway 70 as well. So our proposed improvements are to construct a new pump station. So we're going to, as I said, we're going to intercept the flow in the 15-inch sewer, build a new pump station, and then install a 16-inch force main from that pump station along Golden Bear all the way down to the interceptor sewer, which is the project that just got completed there, went through the park over there at the school. And a 16-inch force main would provide you 3,500 single-family units in addition to what development you have now. So talk a lot about this with Shane and Tim about planning and stuff. Obviously, 3,500 units sounds like a lot, but, a lot of times people come in and they want to do 500 homes, it's R10 or R7 or whatever the density is. So this is something that, working with planning, if this is a project that you do want to move forward with, we would definitely work with planning and see what the vision for that area is, how many units, you do want, or what kind of density you're looking for. And, that can be adjusted, but we had to start with something, and 3,500 units was a good place to start, we felt like. So as I said, so that little red box right there used to be a farmer's market stand on the south side of Highway 70 going out towards Bender's Ferry. And so that little red box is generally in that area. It's a good spot. There's ample room right there. There's 2 or 3 different properties that could potentially serve to provide a location for a pump station. And then from there, as I said, you're talking about 16,000 feet of force main coming around Golden Bear and then following an existing easement and then down to the interceptor sewer. So what you probably really care about is what do I think that's going to cost and how long does it take to build it, right? So estimated cost is approximately $2.1 million for design and construction.
12.1.
12.1, what did I say? 2. Oh, yeah, 12.1. Well, there you go. I would too. So $12.1 million based on, what sewer is costing today. And from the time you start design, we get easements, we get through construction, everything, we're expecting it to take about 2.5 years. So this kind of an investment, if this is something that the city wants to move forward with, isn't something that, move forward with it and you're not actually going to have capacity for people for 2.5 years. So there are some things that we can do if you do move forward with a project like this to manage capacity, providing sewer availability to people in components and saying, by this date, you can have this many units and by this date, you can have this once you pay your fees and everything. But to complete it, it'll be January of 2028 before you're able to actually put the whole system online, we anticipate. This is a breakdown of where I think the cost is. We can email this to you. You can see it. This is all based on current bid pricing that we've received on other jobs similar in scope. I've actually bid some 16-inch force main earlier in this year, so I feel like these prices are are on point for what construction is right now at this time. And we can go back to that if you want to. But one thing that I talk to people about is recovery of cost. So this is a big thing for all municipalities. First off, this is for what we're talking about is for new development. There's no reason that your existing customer base should subsidize developers having sewer service. So we always, in a situation like this, we always talk about how is a sewer system supposed to recover its cost for an initial investment. Based on 3,500 units, we divide out the $12.1 million, that comes down to $4,000 a unit. So what we always propose is that you create an additional fee for that drainage basin that would come into that pump station and use that force main. And each one of those developers would pay not only the existing tap capacity fees, but there would be an additional fee of $4,000 levied against each development on an SFU basis until you recover your initial investment. And then once the city recovers its investment, then those fees can go away. Now, thing there is, right, once you cover your initial investment, you've also given away all the capacity. So if somebody else comes in later, then they have to make whatever improvements are necessary. The reason a system like this is difficult is just the logistics of building this, right, for a single developer, the amount of cost, because they always come back and say, okay, well, I only want to build 500 homes. That's $2 million. How do I reclaim my other $10 million? So then you start into a negotiation. I've done this with other cities of, well, is there payback? So then when another developer comes in, then they have to pay, then you're collecting fees to turn around and then hand off to this, developer over here. How do you set all that up? It can get really complicated. So what I've found throughout my career is if a municipality is willing to build the infrastructure and put the money up front, then it's much easier to just reclaim the fees yourself in the long term, rather than having another party that's involved in there. Even if you go out to the bond market and you create a bond just for that particular project, and then you collect those fees until you pay the bond off, including any interest payments that there are. So it might be that if you pay interest on that bond during time, then you continue to collect fees until you've paid those bonds off. So by doing that, you don't actually cost your existing ratepayers any money, but it does take some time to reclaim that. Yes, ma'am. So
you would be, or may I just say, as typical, it would be take out a bond for the 12.1 million, initiate the project.
Mm-hmm.
Then we would start paying the annual cost of the bond back from existing sewer monies that we have in the utility, and then just start collecting the $4,000 to repay that cash balance, and to hopefully, once it's in place and construction picks up or whatever, we would recoup the entire cost.
Yes, sir.
But if it's never developed out fully, then the existing customers are going to be picking up the cost at some point.
Yes. So the existing customers are going to cover the bill until the development occurs over time, whenever that point in time is. If it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, that is absolutely true. You can also, if you have enough interest in an area, which you do have interest in this area right now, you can pre-sell some of that capacity, right? And that's what we're talking about, like saying, we can give you sewer availability because you want to go ahead and do mass grades and stuff, but we go ahead and collect your fees so you get some money on the front end. Potentially. I mean, it's because you have to set this special fee up. You don't have an ordinance or anything in place that sets this up. So the way you craft that fee and stuff would be up to you all.
Okay.
But this is similar to the large sewer line that, if anybody noticed, that was put in the ground in Lebanon, Tennessee. There was some very large diameter pipe along Hartman Drive and stuff. The development south of I-40 paid into that project in a partnership thing with the city of Lebanon and built part of it, and put up funds immediately on the front end to build part of that. And then the city is going to recoup their fees in the future.
So currently for that area, all the capacity is allocated?
Yes, sir.
And are we under any time frame obligations, legal requirements to do anything to remedy that right now, or?
No, sir.
So it's
you're
just
not-
kind of
you don't have
proactive
any,
if we
you
want to
don't
get ahead
have
of
any
it?
sewer issues. It's just at this point, anyone who came and submitted a sewer availability for that letter or for that area, when Shane and Tim asked me to write a sewer availability letter to analyze the system, I would recommend that you not allow any additional development in that Bender's Ferry corridor.
Now, it's a question for staff. Does that in any way inhibit somebody from going through a rezone or bringing in development if they knew there's no capacity at the time? Could they go through the entire approval process? I mean, obviously, like if we just walk this all the way out and they got a PUD approved, the PUD's going to be on the clock.
Unless I can answer that. Unless they come to one of you heavily lobbying for a project, I probably would not. I would recommend to planning to not even acknowledge the application.
Okay. So it would be kind of nipped at that point
That
before
would
it
be
ever
my
made it.
recommendations, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Early in the process, they asked for sewer availability. So that's what Steve was saying. He would deny or recommend that we not. And the other issue that we're having over here is line size capacity also, not just a pump station. So that's kind of
For the existing service?
well, for what we have in the ground, to assume any more capacity, it also is a line capacity issue, more so right now than the pump station. Is that correct in some areas?
Yeah. So let me jump to that map. So we talk about we're at 70% of this pump station, but this line right here is where we've given away all the capacity. So what's coming in at Bender's Ferry right now, this line is going to be full once all of that development is completed.
So you're not talking about the force main from the pump station
No.
back. You're talking about
The
what is
gravity
collecting,
service-
what is coming down Bender's Ferry
Collector line.
is a bottleneck.
Yeah, and we looked at that. That was the first thing that we looked at with Tim and Shane was, okay, if a developer paid to make that line larger where they could get it to the pump station, and then we're like, well, we get it to the pump station, and now the pump station doesn't have adequate capacity either. So we backed up and looked at what can we do to create capacity, and that's where a second pump station from the north side of town. And so by removing that flow, obviously, this area here, then it allows additional development in here and stuff to come to the existing pump station. And so it alleviated some capacity concerns for the system as a whole.
So anything coming down by the high school goes back up to the Cedar Creek pump station. We talking about intercepting that flow from the high school or just from the Bender's Ferry area?
Just from the Bender's Ferry area. So
Okay.
we would allow all the flow and everything from the high school to come, but if you take flow off that pump station, then you can allow more development along that corridor.
There is an option. I mean, we could do that.
But we're good for the moment through there.
Very good.
Okay. What?
So the 70% right now that you guys currently have, that you said that's on capacity, is that on the line right there on Bender's Ferry or where?
That's on the pump station.
So the pump station.
So
is
the pump,
70%.
so that's why I said, I wanted to talk about it as a whole, because you've got the whole urban growth boundary here that, we want to make sure that, what has to happen if you want to develop out in this entire piece. And so basically by building a second pump station right here where the lake comes down, we would basically cut this part in half and all of this part over here would go into a new pump station. And then we would alleviate some of this existing flow that goes into it to gain some capacity back at the existing pump station. So you'd go from 70%, we can probably get it down to about 50%. And then you've got another pump station that'll take the existing flow and add about 3,500 additional SFU of capacity to the system.
So that's like Silver Springs and Parish Place.
Parish Place, yeah.
And then, so the current pump station that we have, how old is it? And what's the,
That pump station's 10 years old, yeah.
And how many pumps are in it?
Or
And
119 horse pump.
they're all in great shape, I'm hoping?
Yes.
Okay.
We switched to flight pumps, which
Yeah.
is
Very good pumps, yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very successful in our system.
Okay. And then the capacity for pumping that back, like what size lines is that? And what's the age of those lines?
That's an 18-inch line coming out of the Cedar Creek pump station. And it was built at the same time as the pump station.
So
it's
10 years old?
But it's PVC. It's,
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay. And then have we had any issues in, like with any of the, leaks or anything or any type of failures?
The only failure we had was about 2 months ago when the air release valves came apart on us on a Monday morning. Bled out some.
Yeah.
That reports at TDEC. So
How much did we lose there?
I estimated 125,000 gallons. That's very low for a breaking line.
Yeah, I get it, but that's still, if it's
No, it was-
reportable back to TDEC, it's still a lot of crap,
Well,
right?
The beauty of that was we had a current rain event, so flows.
Yeah.
TDEC was not alarmed.
Okay.
Uh,
Did we get penalized for that or fined? No? Okay. So how do we catch the leak or the failure? Let me
Our neighbors at West Wilson Utilities saw it. It was right behind their facility.
The growth boundary.
So we don't have any sensors or camera footage in there that's being able to capture operations of that pump room?
No, and it's hard to tell the flow when you lose it at that low of a capacity because that's very low.
Sure.
It's coming out of the station, so we capture flow numbers coming into the station, but not going out until it gets to the meter station on Lebanon Dirt Road.
Okay.
So, but it was about a 3 to maybe 4 hour event.
Okay.
What we did is we removed the air release valve and put a repair clamp over it. The air release valve at that time was designed more for the ozone that we don't use anymore. We switched to the carbon scrubbers.
Yep.
So it could have been a lot worse.
Gotcha.
There was no digging required. We just got in there and shut the system down and made the repair.
Okay. Is there anything that we could be doing being proactive or outside of
We
that?
check our air release valves. I mean, one like that one, as much as the station runs, it's going to stay closed.
Sure.
It was really designed for a different situation. Being proactive, I could say, looking back, we should have just cut it off, turned it off. But the band broke around it, so that was corrosion.
Okay. And we still have 3 more that are, that are still currently on there from the old ozone?
No, that was one air release valve on the force main coming out of the pump station for the entire 18-inch line.
Okay.
It's gone now.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
That won't happen.
All right.
Two more comments. First of all, with the reimbursement of this, however the board decides if they want to proceed with this project, we have included it in our budget to start preliminary design, land acquisition, any easements. We are going to be evaluating our rates this year. We held off from doing it last year because of the EQ Basin project was now bid. We've got a final cost on it. We will be, once the budget is approved, barring any what we intend to do, we will be evaluating rates. And like I said, if this project goes forward, we will be working with finance and the engineer that's doing our rate study to implement any additional fees that could come about of this job. So there's many ways to recoup the costs. I did talk to the city attorney about it. That would be another way we would investigate if developments had to pay in that no new customers or no existing customers, would be paying for a new pump station that does not serve them. The second statement, and I do want to thank Commissioner Giles for bringing the Knox in to this discussion, because they've got property right now that if they did want to decide to develop, that we cannot serve due to the capacity, reaching capacity. we've got a layout shown, and I told this in the meeting when we met with Knox and Commissioner Giles. We will be working with the property owners to make sure the location of this line does not impact any future plans they have with the property. We do show routing as general in scope, but we will make sure, and now that we've met the property owners, to ensure that anybody that is going to be affected by this, we have their blessing before we finalize the alignment.
Okay. The last question I got is the easement, that 12.1 million, is that going to be, is that in addition to the cost of the easements?
That
and
will
all
be in addition to, yes, sir.
So we're probably looking at just an estimated ballpark for a turnkey project, what, 15, 16 million then? Or
I was hoping to be around in the 14.5 million as of today.
And that's why we went from the 30 or the $4,000 cost versus the actual real math of, if you figure the 3,500, divide that by the 12.1, comes out to right around, I think it was $3,500 per household versus 4,000. So that bumps us up to the 14 million.
Yes.
Add some extra
Buffer in there just in
Yeah,
case.
because, I mean, obviously, prices are going to continue to change.
Oh, yeah.
before we get to construction and easements and everything, but most of this will be constructed either in the right of way along Golden Bear, or adjacent to an existing easement here, which, greatly reduces the cost of that easement because it's in an area that somebody can't build anything anyways. So you're just talking about 20 additional feet of easement. So we don't anticipate the easement cost being, astronomical.
Okay. I got all my questions answered. I'm good.
Any other questions?
I do, since I missed it, and I'm very, very sorry. My wife had a little accident this weekend, and we had almost basically surgery this morning at 7, and then I had some electrical problems in the office. So
Life.
Shane Electric's been up there today, if you know Aaron. And so anyway, it's just one of those days. I'm very sorry. What was discussed about the time frame when this could be completed? Did we talk about that? And obviously I missed that.
So
And when would we start?
If the board is willing to allow us to go forward with this project, we would cut Steve loose to start design in July.
Okay.
Of this year?
Yes, sir.
And it'd take 18 months
Yes, we'd have to
for
get
total
into,
construction.
we'd probably bring Kenny, involve Kenny and city manager to property acquisition and design. We'd probably have those activities going concurrently.
Okay, so on the east side of Golden Bear, does this affect those? I saw the property on the left, but does it also affect that on the right? Where I think maybe some townhomes are thinking about coming in or something? Has that been explained?
So the line along Golden Bear would stay inside the right of way. So we don't so there shouldn't be any impact on any development in that area.
Okay, but if see where you've got the right angle coming from the new pump station
Here.
to hit all the way up right there. Okay, so if you go north, everything to your east, is that also serviced by this line, by this sewer?
It could be, but that highly depends on, because that sewer availability has already come in and we were able to direct them, but they got to jump through some hoops to get sewer.
But there's some
where
more
they gotta
property
go.
there that hasn't
There
almost
is.
come. So that's why I was wondering.
So depending upon.
What do you mean by
timeline-
hoops?
Well, they have to, because this sewer is at capacity, they're having to build a pump station and then pump into this drainage basin because they can't go into that sewer because that sewer's no longer got capacity in it.
But if we had capacity, would we need another pump station there?
If we had capacity here, then I believe we could get them into that sewer by gravity.
So now we're going to wind up paying for a pump station.
Well, they're building the pump. Yeah.
Well, we'll be
But
paying
you're
the
gonna be- you're gonna be
depreciation, the
taking care
maintenance,
of
and
it, yeah.
everything else. Yeah, I see what you mean by hoops.
So
And that's
what
going to
would
be hoops that the rest of the utility pays for too. With the pump station, depreciation, maintenance, electricity, or you could have just flown it gravity.
What's the cost of that pump station back to the city? On an annual basis, ballpark?
Well, it'd be the depreciation cost. So if you assume it's a $500,000 pump station, you depreciate it over 20 years. Yeah,
Doing straight line depreciation.
yeah.
The one that they would build, correct?
The one that they would build, yes, sir.
But we're building the other one.
I think he's talking about just a pump station for that neighborhood.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
developer would cover that cost of putting the pump station in. Then they would gift it to us to maintain forever and ever and
Whatever.
ever and ever
We don't want to gift it.
and ever.
We have to accept it. Can't we just put it on our HOA budget? You know what I mean?
Not anymore. TDEC won't.
Yeah, I know,
they don't
I know.
allow that anymore.
I know.
It's like they want funds they can count on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they want to make sure it's working
HOAs for some
properly.
reason didn't go fix sewer facilities when they owned them. They just let it run across the road.
Mhm.
Sometimes they disband.
So,
Yeah.
so what did you say? How were we going to pay for this? How did you say that? Because I met with the attorney a time or two trying to figure out what we can do, like capacity fees and
Yes, sir.
et cetera, et cetera.
I believe I spoke to that right before you got
I'm
here.
sorry.
No,
Yeah.
you're fine. Because of the EQ Basin project that's now going to be starting construction next month, we held off on evaluating our rates. So we had a fixed cost for that basin to ensure that we had an accurate rate study being taken place. With that rate study, amongst other options, I did talk to the city attorney about this. We have the opportunity to analyze our tap and capacity fees for payback of this project to ensure that no existing sewer user is paying for this station.
So it would be going forward to anyone who.
Yes, sir. That's an option that
puts
we
in
have.
sewer. Okay. Okay. And you told everybody that before. Okay.
Yes, sir.
What was,
Just a question on that one we're talking about where the developer paid for. What was the estimated cost on that one be? The pump station?
$500,000 or so.
Oh, $500,000.
Yes,
Gotcha.
sir.
it's small.
And what's the life of it? You're saying 25 years for that pump station? Realistically, like we want to replace pumps for 25 years.
We've got them throughout our system.
Really?
Melbourne.
So do we spec those out to what we want for the right pumps and the right design
We
and
have
everything?
specifications. We have formulas for different size of wet wells of what we use. We have a pretty standard proven formula of what pump systems we want for specific applications.
And Steve is the one that actually reviews those to make sure they're within city spec. Another project we just finished, what was it, last year, was Timber Trail Pump Station. That one was right at 25 years when we replaced all the pumps.
Most of our original stations are still in operation.
So when we went back and we replaced them, what was our cost?
Was that-
340,
That project was, yeah, it was like,
300.
I'd say 350.
So it went from 250 to 350,000 roughly? You think is about the way, like
We
it cost to
replaced
install
the
back then?
entire platform, pumps, control panels, upsized it. We're talking about Timber Trail.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
We recoated the wet well. We did not replace the wet well. We just coated it.
But he increased the size for volume, correct? Or capacity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Not
Slightly.
the capacity of the wet well, but the performance
pumps.
of the pumps.
Yeah.
And just because I haven't been to that location, but I know about the other pump station right there at the end of Brownstone, right there at Devonshire. What what's the capacity there, and then what do you think the cost is for that location? Just ballpark. Because I've been
Cost?
right there.
Was it around
It was paid by the developer.
Yeah, I know.
I want to say
Around 400.
4 to 450.
And that's the same type of design as what we're currently looking at for everything.
That's a suction lift. If we have a deep wet well now, what we're talking about at the new pump station that we're proposing, that would be submersible pumps. They're a little bit more,
Mhm.
but the kind that we use, like I said, we have a really proven track record of performance.
Okay.
We're not spending a lot of time at the machine shop with our pumps. We have
Gotcha.
a rigid maintenance schedule. I know this doesn't really mean much to the board, but we don't get calls in the middle of the night for pump stations. being
Sure.
We just have proven methods that we follow the maintenance schedules.
Makes sense. That was good. Again, I'm trying to think of just, because I haven't been at this other pump station that you guys are referring to, so I'm trying to go to the one that I do that's brand new, just installed, and go from there. So, okay.
I think your other question was capacity, so it was designed.
Yeah, thank
for
you.
the
I knew there was another
capacity.
section to part. Yes, thank
It
you.
was designed for the capacity of phase 4 of Hickory Hills. Now, it does serve some of Sydney Terrace.
Mhm.
Very small.
Because there used to be that other gravity fed up there. Is that what it
Well,
was?
It was another pump station we removed.
Oh, that was a pump station?
Yes, up at the top of the hill. So whatever service,
Cul-de-sac.
I'm gonna say it was serving maybe 30 homes.
Yeah, it's 20 to 30 homes.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's servicing those homes plus phase 4.
So it's about 100 homes then.
I know this, I've got a question, Mayor.
Sure.
I know this probably, I'm just trying to understand sewer flow. I mean, I'm just, So, for example, this proposed development that's going to come in on Golden Bear that I was just referring to, and you was talking about the hoops, and the mayor brought that up. Okay. Is there a way that could be linked into this one down here, the proposed pump station, and instead of them putting another one there that we're going to have to maintain, they could pay, how much is this pump station going to cost, the actual station you said?
12.1, 12.2.
No, I mean the actual station.
Oh, the one that they're.
No, that
proposing
we're
for-
proposing down there, just the station.
Just the station? I think we
Got
had
that.
Yeah, and I don't have that.
3.25 million.
Just the station
Just-
because it's so large, right?
Yeah.
Well, if they were going to pay 500,000 or 600,000 for one, is there any way that capacity, for better words, or that sewer could be taken down somehow and put in another one and them give us that money on that one?
Potential. So potentially, so this is what I mentioned earlier about managing capacity. So if you have more development in an area, then we have capacity right now for full build out of every development, but not every development's going to be fully built out in the same time frame. So we can work with developers and we can look at what their build out schedules are and say, this is when these facilities will be online. This is how much capacity has to be in existence before then for these existing developments. This is how much additional capacity there is. And then we can manage that capacity and we can say, yes, if you move forward today, by the time you do site grading, you do this kind of stuff, you're going to be a year down the road before you need your first gallon of capacity. And you're going to be 2 years down the road before you need your first 50 SFU of capacity and whatnot. And so you can manage capacity, and then any new developments that are coming in, when they sign up the agreement to pay these additional fees, the city puts dates in there saying, okay, well, we'll guarantee you X amount of capacity by this date, and then you'll have your full capacity by this other date. That way they go ahead and commit to a project and they put money toward that project, and then they, feel confident moving forward that they're going to have capacity, and it's based on a time frame that gets set through agreements.
A little risky.
Well, and I understand what you're talking about, that is a lot of bookkeeping for that, or whatever you call it. But if we did that way right now, then this other development could probably get out of putting a pump station in or the cost of it. Because we're just saying, oh, we got capacity that you could use down the road. And that wasn't what I was referring to, but it is, that was a question that I brought up the other day, what you were talking about, but that wasn't my question right now. My question right now is if we let that, but then they couldn't develop, well, but I don't know what the time frame of them would be, but is there any way that they could run that to this pump station and give us that amount of money that they would put in their pump station up there to go against ours? Is what I was trying to say.
The other route that they wanted to go to was gravity to the north. Steve, you got the. So they wanted to take it north to the sewer that's located on Silver Springs Church, and then take it west. That was their original routing. It was all going to be gravity flow, but the capacity had already been allocated to multiple developments along Bender's Ferry.
Have they got a letter of capacity issued?
Yes, sir. To go south and build a pump station on site and pump it south.
Okay.
As we've discussed
We
here.
actually required them to do a flow rate study to prove that that was available.
And it came back that it was not available going the gravity route today.
On the timing of this, you're saying, what was it, 18 months design? And I'm sorry, 12 months design, 18 months construction?
It could be working in 2028.
Beginning of 2028 or the end of 2028?
2028.
We anticipate January 2028, we could have it up and going. So we'll go ahead and have everything designed and have you a bid package ready. And so that you could have a contractor on site putting a bucket in the ground come July 1 of next year, and then have that in your budget to be able to.
I mean, ideally, it would be coming online close to when 70's widened. So when there's requests for more construction up there, I'm not trying to fight on one hand, paying back my new sewer obligations versus infrastructure up there. So if anybody could just give me a date from TDOT on when that road will be finished to make this whole planning thing a lot easier.
Sure.
You own it, Kenny?
Yes, sir.
No pressure. Pull out that glass ball so you'll be able to tell us.
Don't do that. TDOT interchange made a big difference. We're paying a lot of attention to the governor's budget this year.
Well, it's 6 o'clock. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, fears?
I got one more.
Vice Mayor.
For, to go back with what you guys had said at the beginning of this meeting tonight, that our current capacity will meet all of the current projects that are in our, I guess, planning box, right? That's already been submitted to the city. From here on out, every department is aware of this concern, and it's basically going to be pushed back on them as development cannot be developed until the city comes up with a plan, or unless they decide they want to run their own line. Is that correct?
That is correct. We've notified planning.
Okay. So, all right. Just want to make sure that, but there's no obligation on our end for legal, right? For us to do this?
No,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
Keep in mind, and just reminding you, we have put in our budget, this budget for engineering. So if you.
Yeah, we're being proactive, right? That's all we're doing.
Yes.
We're trying to come up with a game plan, and this way, if a developer that says, hey, we're going to be able to pick this up because we want to be able to put this amount of homes, these 500 or 1,000 homes, whatever it is for their land, then they can acquire that easement and start running their own lines, so to speak, right? Okay.
So there would be another next year's budget, I guess, or something, or whenever that date was determined.
Construction.
Construction at a later time. Gotcha.
I had one thing.
Go for it.
You made me think of something when you talked about depreciation. And I appreciate the commission for being proactive and looking at these types of things. Have there been there? I know there has, but I want to confirm because it hit me with what the mayor was saying is there's been some opportunities at times when we had a dated pump station that a development came in and said, hey, and we said, well, if you're going to be able to do it, you're going to upgrade our pump station, which is beneficial at times as well, because whatever you're getting close to having to redo at $450,000, the developer took it out.
Yeah, Hickory Hills Phase 4 is an example. The Wintry Pines pump station, that was another example. So we have,
Yorkshire States is looking at upgraded Paradise.
yeah, so we've asked for it.
So staff and the elected body, thank you, because it's very creative. And I also know sometimes the staff and elected body gets pushback for your outside the box thinking, but that's when development actually works to be beneficial, just like the sidewalks, just like street lights, just like with what we're talking about. On the blank on the other thing that we mandate sometimes, well, sewer expansion. The mayor will know we've been talking for years about Golden Bear, and there's that section in there that we kept hoping that the development would drive it. And there has been situations where development drove the sewer. So great way to think outside the box. So a shout out to the elected body.
All right. Commissioner Mullally.
All right, you said this new budget coming up for design and engineering, just that is how much?
So we put in the budget, engineering was 760,000. We've got, drawing a blank. I believe we put, do not quote me on this without my spreadsheet in front of me, but I believe we put in 750,000 for land acquisition. Like I said, we're just trying to be conservative, and another 250,000 for easements. I can get those numbers to you during the budget workshop, or if you requested earlier, I can send those to you, but it's
All right, how much for design?
760,000.
Oh, that's the engineering. That's part of that.
Yes, ma'am. And then there was a land cost, I believe we put in there for about 700,000.
All right, and then easements.
I'd say it's 250,000, but I can, if you would like that information, I can email that to you in the morning.
Vice Mayor.
So total in
Oh.
this upcoming budget for this is what? Or all that together?
1.7 million. Like I said, I can get you that number specific tomorrow.
And this would come out of what, the sewer fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else, Commissioner? Vice Mayor?
So what do we have in our reserves right now for the sewer reserve funds?
I could grab a number out of the air, 30 million maybe.
30?
We've set aside for the EQ basin out of
Yeah.
that.
And how much is the
We
EQ
haven't
budget?
cut the first check yet for the EQ basin.
In the EQ basin is how much?
It was right around
18.5.
18.6 million.
Okay. And then, so just kind of thinking this out here, and obviously you're part of the engineering firm, which is great. So thank you for all of your time and efforts, especially with your history with the city. But I'm just thinking outside the box. If we're going to spend $700,000 for design, that's a full-time employee for the next probably 5 years. How come we don't consider that? Nothing against your group, but I mean, seriously, I mean, if we've got so much development in our city, I'm not trying to add on a head count, but I'm thinking long-term here. Is there something that we could be doing? Heck, bring you on payroll full-time. It'd be a lot cheaper for the city to go ahead and just hire you as a full-time employee than it would be for you to have your firm do it. But
Jeez, he ain't heard his rate.
well, no, I mean, but I'm just thinking outside the box. Seriously. I mean, like if we start thinking about this,
is okay, if we came up with these projects and put them on the table, are you going to support us doing those projects?
well, I mean, that's where we're being proactive versus
Yeah.
reactive.
Yeah.
And that's where we got to be
Because
as a
my
city.
concern of what I see in this is that we've had this plan of A to B, and we need to be looking a little further out
You're right.
on the projects. We need to be looking at A to Z and what we can bring in between. We have one on the table right now that's concerning. We can't deny it, but I think we could, do a better job of looking down the road of bringing in future development and, maybe absorbing the costs later.
Yeah. Well,
I,
I'm just,
I understand what you're
yeah.
saying, but the history and the rate of projects that really come through, I don't know if we can justify a full-time employee.
that's what I'm asking. Yeah, exactly.
I
So if you
don't
can't
see
show
so.
justification, then that makes sense. I'm just saying,
No, with the expertise that Steve's firm brings to the table, that would be a very unique individual to hire to replace his staff.
Yeah.
You're looking at the face, but there's multiple staff that
Yeah.
supports him.
Bill, to add to that, I mean, it's not a lump sum number. That is a budgetary number. We do bill hourly to the city and to all the cities that we work for. So you pay for however many hours that we work on a project. But that also covers the cost of the structural engineers, the geotechnical engineers, the electrical, the mechanical, the surveyors, the easement acquisition team, all of those other ancillary components that are needed to pull the project
Sure.
together. So it's not just me
I know.
giving you that amount of money. So
Again, I'm just trying to ask,
if it was, I
like
would
our
have to
team.
work nearly as many projects in a given year.
Totally
So-
get it. Okay. All right. And then the other last question here that I got. So if we've got that in reserves, isn't it possible? So if we're going to be looking at potentially getting back our money back from these investors, right? And I hate to take everything out of our piggy bank, so to speak, but in reality, I mean, if we're going to be paying back an interest rate, why don't we just take it back out of our own reserves? So that way,
I think TDEC requires us to have a certain amount in reserve in case of catastrophic failure.
sure.
Operational cost. Dana would have to clarify.
There are a lot of rules that govern the
Yeah.
enterprise fund that
Again, I'm just thinking outside the box. If we're going to pay an interest back to somebody, I mean, if we do the actual incubation and we pull out of that for that reserve there, and then we can go back with something that's more utility based cost, because that's going to be a harder, to be able to get our money back from that side of it. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So because with the bond, if we pull it for that side, then we can be able to take that money out of the reserves versus just taking it out of our reserves and paying these guys and the whole development. Then that way we're not trying to reallocate all of this different money to get it back. Again, I'm just asking you guys. You guys are the ones dealing with the numbers along with Dana, but I'm just thinking, is it something that we could be looking at? One big project versus 3,500 other projects? Because that's really what you guys are proposing today, is that we got to collect from 3,500 more people. I'd rather just collect from one person.
Well, keep in mind, we're doing a rate study. So
Sure.
that would affect the entire system. And that's more in preparation for our contracting in with Metro Nashville that's going to change in 2029.
Yeah.
So there's some other variables with that.
But it wouldn't be the whole entire 12.1 because we could probably take the engineering directly out of reserves as we got now. No need to do a bond on that. That's already subtracted. Then we're another year down the road. We got a clear price on what the EQ basin is. Plus we've got some more revenues that have been collected. So
I've got final costs. I was actually off by $8,000 on the design, so it's $768 for design, $750 for land, and then $250,000 for easements.
May I ask a question about that? We don't have on this diagram right here, there's not very much land to really acquire. It's just easements, it looks like.
Yes.
Except down there on Lebanon Road,
Yes, sir.
and then where it crosses Old Lebanon Dirt Road, is that the only two places that you think we would have to actually acquire land? Not the right of way, but
From these folks. We'd
but
have,
I don't
oh, you're
think,
talking about actual land?
yeah.
It would just be for the pump
theirs is
station.
right away. If I'm seeing this right on the map, am I seeing it? Is that what?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not. So there is land that they would take?
Right away, all the way here. This would be easement.
It's already there.
Yeah, and then this is right away. So there's a couple of easements in this area. Of course, this is being developed, so you can just put that in the PUDE. And then that piece of property, just where the pump station, wherever the pump station ends up sitting, would be the only purchased property. That would become city of Mount Juliet property.
That would be down on Lebanon Road.
Yes,
That's
Where the old
purchased.
fruit stand was.
Right.
yeah, that general area.
So if you take yours and do that again, that comes from the pump station and come this way, where did you say we would have to literally buy land?
Right. For that,
On
for the
Lebanon
physical
Road.
building to sit on,
Okay, so everything else would be
easements
easements,
or right of way. That
which would be looks like close to the line or already running, like you said, on Golden Bear.
What is it, like a quarter acre or something? Like a quarter acre?
Yeah, probably, yeah, it's about the same size piece of property that, the existing pump station there next to the creek sits on, so.
And how much would that be ballpark?
I shot a number in the dark. I kind of just guesstimated 750,000 as budget. It could be much less than that
No, he's talking about the purchase of
The little lot.
to purchase the site, correct?
Sure, yeah.
We have not, like I said, we would proceed with
I mean,
acquisition I budgeted $750,000 just to be safe.
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, like an acre of land in Mount Joy's about $100,000. So are we buying 7.5 acres?
No. I
Yeah,
just
that's
don't
what I'm
want to
saying.
come. I don't
I'm
want to
just
come
throwing
back. I don't want to come back to
I
you
mean,
guys
again,
asking
because
for
right
more
now
money
we're just
after a budget.
budgeting.
Depending
know,
on where it is.
Well,
There's a
that's what
road
I'm
frontage
saying
on
is-
Highway
yeah.
70.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying here is that we're throwing out a number that if any landowners do hear it, they're like, oh, well, my land's worth a lot more now. It's it's $2 million now because y'all need it. You see what I'm getting at?
Right, we would do appraisals and such to
So we go back to that baseline. Okay.
yes.
But it's just there and then on Old Lebanon Dirt Road, right? Is that where we would be buying land?
Yeah, just right there on Highway 70.
We would not be buying any land on Unlimited Dirt Road, right?
Okay, it just looked like it was when it crosses right in here, but maybe that's just because it's already on close to a right of way or
Yeah.
something. So,
Yeah, we just didn't want to have a situation where we start negotiating and then have to come back to you guys for more money.
well, I had to put these on. Okay.
Property. Would purchase of property come out of sewer fund or would it come out of general fund?
Sewer
Where would-
fund. Everything's sewer fund for this project.
All right, so that's what I'm wondering too. The property, that's obviously not included in these estimates, or it is?
It is. It's not included in the engineering of the next budget. The 25, 26.
It's not included as part of the 12.1 construction cost. No,
Right, to purchase the little piece of
that is
property.
correct. It's not.
Okay, so
It is in. That's what we-
are estimates going to be put in the budget for that, or how's that going to work?
You talking
or
about for
you-
the land?
Yeah, to purchase the land, or are you going to have to come back for a budget amendment? How's that going to
Well,
work?
That's why I shot high for such a small piece. That's where the $750,000 is. It is in the proposed budget.
Land acquisition?
Yes.
So is that the same thing as actually purchasing the piece of
Yes.
property? Oh,
Yes.
that's the same thing.
Yes.
That's what you call the acquisition.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. I got you.
That's the first thing we do, try to secure the land. and-
Well, yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah.
So around the whole city, is there any other areas that are like concerning, like in 5 years, we're going to get to 70% or anything like that?
No, the south side we've got a lot of capacity on the south side. We're ready for development on the south side. We just upsized the main interceptor through the center of town. We do have another phase of that we can look at in a few years. But the north side is,
Okay.
the light's blinking on the north side. So,
And basically, while I was gone, this happened. Is that correct? We didn't know this much growth was going to be on Bender's Ferry all the way up to where it is.
Correct. Yes.
We did not plan on this a few years ago.
That is correct. There was a subdivision regulation change that made it more enticing to develop in the city versus the county because we have the sewer. Let me rephrase it. We have the ability to serve first. Let me say if they wanted to pay for it, the zoning was more advantageous in the city than in the county.
Killing us, so.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Guys, any last comments? All right.
Yeah, real quick. I mean,
Got a real
y'all
quick-
have the force main here. I mean, there is the large piece of property right here that's owned by the McCullough family that, has had numerous things look at it and there's no sewer available to it. the force main through here in the past, we've told people that that area right there would get a pump station and they would have to build a force main to get to this location. So that would put the force main by the property, and then you would eventually end up with another pump station here that would tie into this same force main. And then they would share the force main in order to service that property as well. So I thought I'd throw that in there just to,
What's the cost of that?
well, that would, all that cost would be, you would put that cost on whatever
Back on
that
that
development
developer.
was, yeah.
Okay.
So you wouldn't pay for that in the future.
We could ask them to contribute back for the section of force main that they would use.
Yeah.
We have had several inquiries as of recent.
And your study would be able to provide them some numbers?
Well,
Or is that not gonna be
the
part of the
last
project?
require we had, they weren't real informative on what they were wanting to do, so it goes through the state.
Yeah, they would have to tell us what their use is to accurately capture what any potential reimbursement would be.
Okay.
Based on the development.
Don't want to tell me what's going on. So
They wouldn't tell us either.
it's not a good way to get to a yes, but all right. With that, no more questions or comments. Thank you for the work, guys. Appreciate you taking the time to put this together and
Thank you very much.
present it to us. If there's nothing else, we're adjourned.